Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, hands resting in your lap, looking out the window and wondering when everything started to feel like it was slipping out of your hands? Maybe it wasn't one big event, just a slow drift. One day you stopped driving at night. Then your kids began managing your appointments. Eventually, you found yourself asking for help with things you used to do without a second thought. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? The world keeps turning, and somehow you feel less and less in charge of your own life. But let me tell you something that not enough people say out loud. Just because you're over 65 doesn't mean you're meant to lose control. That idea, that aging means giving up your power, is a myth. And today, we're going to challenge it. There's no expiration date on being capable. In fact, this chapter of your life can be one of the most empowered. If you choose to take back your sense of control, not by forcing things, but by mastering a few deeply valuable skills that sharpen your mind, strengthen your body, and steady your spirit. Now, when I say skills, I don't mean something you have to go back to school to learn or something only a few gifted people can master. I mean simple, everyday practices that keep you sharp, independent, and in command of your own life. These aren't about impressing anyone. They're about helping you feel like yourself again, grounded, confident, and capable. Let's begin with one that might surprise you: the ability to adapt. Life after 65 is filled with change. Maybe you've lost someone close. Maybe your body doesn't move like it used to. Maybe the world feels faster, louder, and harder to keep up with. And in the face of that, many people freeze. They resist. They long for the way things were. But the real strength, the kind that keeps you feeling in control, comes from learning how to adjust without losing your peace. Think of someone you admire who's aging well. Chances are, they're not the person who avoids all change. They're the one who says, "Okay, this is different, but I'll figure it out." Adapting doesn't mean giving in. It means bending so you don't break. I remember a man named Peter that I first met in a local community group. He used to be a business owner, sharp as a tack, managing a team of 50 people. After retirement, he felt lost. No meetings, no emails, no schedule, just silence. At first, he spiraled, watching TV all day, losing track of time, snapping at his wife for no reason. But then he did something small that changed everything. He started volunteering at a local food pantry once a week. He told me, "At first, I just wanted something to do. But then I realized I'm still useful, I'm still needed, it's just a different role now." But the real strength, the kind that keeps you feeling in control, comes from learning how to adjust without losing your peace. Think of someone you admire who's aging well. Chances are, they're not the person who avoids all change. They're the one who says, "Okay, this is different, but I'll figure it out." Adapting doesn't mean giving in. It means bending so you don't break. I remember a man named Peter that I first met in a local community group. He used to be a business owner, sharp as a tack, managing a team of 50 people. After retirement, he felt lost. No meetings, no emails, no schedule, just silence. At first, he spiraled, watching TV all day, losing track of time, snapping at his wife for no reason. But then he did something small that changed everything. He started volunteering at a local food pantry once a week. He told me, "At first, I just wanted something to do. But then I realized I'm still useful. I'm still needed. It's just a different role now." His eyes lit up when he said that. And the truth is, that one choice, to adapt, gave him back a sense of purpose and control. You don't need to go volunteer or take up a project unless you want to. But the point is this: when life shifts, you can shift with it and still stay fully yourself. Now let's talk about another skill that keeps your mind sharp and your confidence strong: curiosity. Somewhere along the way, a lot of people over 65 are made to feel like they're done learning, as if their opinions don't matter or their minds can't keep up. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Staying curious about people, ideas, technology, even your own thoughts, keeps your brain alive. More than that, it keeps your world from becoming smaller and smaller. I know trying new things can be intimidating. Maybe your grandchildren talk in abbreviations you don't understand. Maybe your doctor tells you to download an app and you feel embarrassed asking for help. Maybe you hear about something on the news and you think, "That's not for me anymore." But curiosity isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking questions without shame. It's about saying, "I don't know, but I'd like to understand." That small shift can make you feel empowered again, like you're still in charge of what you take in, what you explore, what you grow into. There was a woman named Ruth I met once at a senior tech class. She was 72 and had never used a smartphone before. Her hands trembled a little as she tapped the screen, and she kept laughing at herself every time she made a mistake. But every week she came back. She asked questions, she practiced. By the end of the month, she was texting her granddaughter emojis and ordering her own groceries online. She told me, "I feel like a teenager again, except I actually know who I am now, That kind of curiosity doesn't just build skill, it builds joy, and joy brings control. Because when you choose to keep learning, you stay in the driver's seat of your life. Let's take a breath here and think about that for a moment. How many times have you told yourself lately, "I'm too old for that"? It's such an easy phrase to say. But every time you say it, you quietly hand over a bit of your power. You build a little wall between yourself and what's possible. Imagine if, instead, you asked yourself, what if I'm just getting started? What if your best relationships, most meaningful hobbies, or biggest transformations are waiting for you, not behind you? That shift alone, believing there's still something new ahead, can completely change how you feel when you wake up in the morning. You move from surviving the day to living the day. That's the difference between drifting through time and truly steering your own course. And let me say this clearly. You deserve to feel in charge of your own life. Not because you've done everything perfectly, but because you're still here. And as long as you're here, you have every right to live boldly, to try new things, and to keep growing. There's something deeply dignified about staying curious. It shows that you haven't given up on yourself, that you still believe you're capable of becoming, not just being. So as we continue this conversation, I invite you to reflect on what makes you feel small and gently question it. When you feel ignored, dismissed, or overwhelmed, remind yourself, you have more influence over your life than you think. It's not about controlling everything. It's about learning how to respond in a way that keeps your spirit strong and your heart open. No, we can't rewind time, but we can reclaim our power, not with noise or force, but with calm, steady skill. And those skills, adaptation, curiosity, inner belief, are within your reach. They're not reserved for the few. They're available to anyone who's willing to see this stage of life not as a slow decline, but as a chance to rise in new ways. Let's keep going. There's more to uncover and more to reclaim, because this isn't the end of your story. It's the start of a new chapter, one where you are still in the lead. There's something incredibly powerful about realizing that you still have a say in how your life unfolds, even as the world changes around you, even as your body slows down or your days become quieter. You are not just along for the ride, you are still the author. And the more you reconnect with that truth, the more your confidence begins to return, not because life is easier, but because you've remembered that you're capable. So far, we've talked about adapting to life's changes and staying curious as ways to stay in control. These skills are the quiet engines that keep your days meaningful, your mind sharp, and your energy steady. But there's another piece to this puzzle, one that often gets overlooked after 65. It's your ability to communicate assertively. Now, that might sound like a big phrase, but it's really quite simple. It means being able to express your needs, your boundaries, your preferences, without guilt. Because here's what happens to many people as they age. They begin to feel like a burden. They don't want to cause trouble. They say yes to things they don't want to do, accept decisions they don't agree with, or stay silent when something bothers them. All because they don't want to upset the balance. They think, I should be grateful anyone's even helping me at all, so they shrink. They tiptoe. And slowly they give away pieces of their independence. But you are not a burden. You are a person who still has needs, opinions, desires, and limits. And honoring those things isn't selfish, it's healthy. Being assertive doesn't mean being loud or argumentative. It simply means being honest and clear. It means saying, I'd rather not do that today. Or I need a little help, but I'd like to try on my own first. Or I don't feel comfortable with that decision. And it also means asking questions when something doesn't feel right. In a doctor's office, in a family conversation, at the bank, or even at the dinner table. You don't lose control of your life all at once. It usually starts with small silences, a moment where you wanted to speak up but didn't, a choice you let someone else make for you, a favor you accepted even though it wore you out, but you also reclaim control in small steps, one clear sentence, one brave no, one quiet, this matters to me. There's a man I know, Frank, who's in his 70s. He's gentle by nature, kind to everyone, and never liked making waves. After his wife passed away, his adult children began stepping in, handling his finances, choosing his meals, deciding when he should see the doctor. They meant well, but Frank started feeling invisible. So one day he invited them over and said, I'm grateful for your help, but I need to be part of the decisions about my life, not after the fact. During, he told me later, it was hard to say, but once I did, I felt like I could breathe again. That's what assertive communication gives you, oxygen. It reminds you that you are still present, still powerful, still in charge of your story. And just like with any skill, it takes practice. Maybe you start by saying what you want for dinner or how you'd like to spend your weekend. Then maybe you speak up when your doctor's rushing through an appointment, or when a caregiver assumes you can't do something on your own. The more you speak, the more the people around you begin to listen. And not only that, they respect you more, because you're showing up as someone who values themselves. Now, as you regain that voice, there's another skill that becomes equally important: emotional regulation. That's just a fancy way of saying learning how to respond to life's frustrations without being overwhelmed by them. Let's face it, aging brings challenges. Maybe your hands don't work like they used to. Maybe your memory isn't as crisp. Maybe the world feels unfamiliar, or people treat you like you don't matter. It's easy to get discouraged, annoyed, even angry. And those emotions are completely valid. You've earned the right to feel them. But here's what emotional regulation is not. It's not about denying how you feel. It's about learning how to hold those feelings in a way that keeps you in control, not the other way around. Because when you let every frustration turn into a storm, you start to feel helpless. You react instead of respond, you stew instead of speak, and over time that wears you down. So how do you begin to build this kind of emotional strength? It starts with pausing. When something triggers you, instead of immediately reacting, you pause. You take a breath, you ask yourself, what's really bothering me? What do I need right now? That pause, just a few seconds, can make all the difference. Maybe it's the 5th time someone's offered to help you walk when you didn't ask, or maybe it's someone speaking to you like you're a child. In that moment, it's tempting to snap or shut down. But if you can breathe and respond calmly, assertively, you stay in your power. You might say, I appreciate your concern, but I'd like to try it myself first. Or, I understand you're trying to help, but I'm capable here. Calm, clear, confident. This kind of emotional resilience doesn't mean you won't have bad days. It means you'll know how to meet those bad days without letting them take over. And that's the heart of real control, not preventing all discomfort, but learning how to handle it. There's a woman I met named Teresa who had just turned 78. She told me she used to cry almost daily after her husband died and her adult son moved away. I felt like life had turned me into glass, she said. Like any bump would shatter me, but then she started journaling each morning, just a few minutes, writing down whatever was on her mind. Some days it was anger, other days it was gratitude. Slowly she started to notice patterns, what made her feel good, what triggered her sadness, and how her body reacted to stress. She told me, I stopped trying to be fine all the time. I started listening to myself. And with that listening came strength, not loud, not showy, but steady. And that steadiness gave her back control. What's powerful about emotional regulation is that it reminds you, no matter what's going on around you, you still get to decide how you move through it. You may not control the people or the news or the aches and pains, but you do control how you carry them. When you combine this emotional steadiness with assertive communication, with curiosity, with adaptability, you begin to feel more like yourself again, more capable, more confident, more grounded in the truth that you are not fading, you are still evolving. And isn't that what real power is? The ability to stand tall in a changing world and say, I'm still here, I'm still learning, I'm still living on my own terms. There's no expiration date on being in charge of your life. It just takes a little courage to keep choosing yourself, every day in every little way that matters. So if there's one thing I hope you hold on to, it's this. You are not drifting. You are not being left behind. You are building strength, one quiet skill at a time. And as you continue on this path of reclaiming your voice, mastering your responses, and choosing your own direction, remember, you're not doing it alone. There are others just like you, rediscovering how much power they still hold in their hands. Let's keep going, shall we? There's still more waiting for you. More tools, more confidence, more of you to uncover. There's a quiet kind of power that begins to grow once you realize your life is still yours. That even though you're older, even though the world may treat you like you've taken a backseat, the truth is, you are still the driver. Your voice, your choices, your emotions, and your actions still shape your reality. And maybe now more than ever, that matters. You've started reconnecting with your ability to adapt, to stay curious, to speak clearly, and to hold your emotions with steady hands. These are not just habits, they are signs of a strong, aware, and capable person. Someone who hasn't given up. Someone who is still shaping life rather than being shaped by it. And now, as we come to the final piece of this puzzle, it's time to talk about one more essential skill. One that ties all the others together and gives you the foundation to live with clarity and purpose. It's the ability to create structure and routine for yourself. You might not think of routine as a skill. Maybe it sounds boring. Maybe you think of it as something you only needed when you were younger, when life was busier. But after 65, routine is not about staying busy. It's about staying grounded. You see, after retirement or major life transitions, when the kids are grown, when the house gets quieter, It's easy to feel unmoored. Your days begin to blur together. You start to wake up without a clear plan. Maybe you drift from one task to the next or spend long hours sitting unsure of what to do, and before you know it, that lack of direction turns into restlessness, even sadness. But a simple, consistent routine brings order back to your life. It reminds you that you're in charge of how your time is spent. You don't need anyone to tell you what to do. You decide. That's power. That's control. It could be something as gentle as waking up and stretching for 5 minutes, making your bed, brewing your favorite tea, and sitting by the window to watch the light change. That alone tells your brain, this day belongs to me. Structure doesn't need to be rigid. It doesn't mean scheduling every minute. It just means building little touch points throughout your day. Moments that make you feel rooted, safe, and steady. There's a woman named Jean who lives a few blocks from me. She's 80 now. Her husband passed a decade ago, and her children live in other states. She once told me, I don't have a lot of people around me anymore, but I have my rhythm. It keeps me whole. Every morning she writes in a journal. Then she waters her plants, walks around the block, and cooks herself a hot breakfast. She doesn't rush. She doesn't apologize. She treats her day with care. And in that care, you can see the confidence, the pride in having a life that's still full of choice. Because that's what structure gives you. It takes your energy out of the hands of randomness and places it gently back where it belongs, with you. And when you combine structure with all the other skills you've been learning, adaptability, curiosity, assertiveness, emotional regulation, what you begin to see is a version of yourself that may have felt lost for a while. Someone who is calm, steady, and self-led. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about waking up every morning with a smile or always feeling on. It's about building a life that feels like yours. And that life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be filled with accomplishments or activities or people telling you how great you are. It just has to be true to your needs, your pace, and your values. It's amazing how something as small as having a regular walk after lunch or a phone call every Friday with a friend can become an anchor. It's not the size of the activity, it's the intention behind it. The way it says, I matter enough to care for my own time. And this brings us to something deeper. The idea that reclaiming control after 65 isn't about controlling everything. It's about choosing where you focus your energy. There's so much in life we can't change. Illness, loss, the passage of time, the behavior of others. But what you can do, what you've been learning to do, is respond with strength, with awareness, and with purpose. That's what all of these skills lead you to. The confidence to know, I can't stop time, but I can choose how I spend my days. I can't fix every challenge, but I can face them with calm. I may need help sometimes, but I'm still in charge of my voice, my thoughts, my direction. There is no final destination of control, no magic switch that makes everything easy, but there is a state of being where you feel steady, and that steadiness, it's built through the small, brave choices you make every day. To wake up with a purpose, to speak up when something feels wrong, to stay curious, even when it's uncomfortable, to allow emotions to come and go without letting them carry you away, to try something new even if you're scared. These things, they are not signs that you're trying to stay young. They are signs that you're fully alive. And that's the goal, isn't it? Not just to exist, but to live. To wake up knowing that you are still the author of your story, even if some chapters are shorter, even if some pages are harder to write. So let's pause together and take that in. You've come a long way in your life. You've weathered storms, you've made sacrifices. You've loved deeply and lost bravely. You've shown up again and again, even when it wasn't easy. And now you're learning not just to survive, but to thrive, not just to cope, but to lead, not just to be cared for, but to care for yourself in ways that feel empowering and true. That's what mastering these skills is all about. It's not about impressing anyone. It's not about doing everything on your own. It's about reclaiming your seat at the table of your own life, saying, I still belong here, I still have something to give, and I'm not done yet. You're not just aging, you're becoming wiser, becoming calmer, becoming more sure of what matters to you. And that, my friend, is a kind of power no one can take away from you. So if this message has spoken to something inside you, if it reminded you of your strength, or made you think about your life in a new way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. You're not alone in this. And your voice, it matters here. And if you want more content like this, encouragement, tools, conversations that make you feel seen, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a space where age is not a barrier but a blessing. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being open, for being willing, for showing up not just to watch but to live more fully. Here's to the skills you're mastering, here's to the power you're reclaiming, and here's to living your best life at any age.